TwitPic, right? Which was followed up by Virgin America buying an ad against the story on Gawker. So these are all the kinds of things that companies are trying to deal with today. If you guys remember recently, Marc Jacobs, the fashion house, had an intern that was quitting the day after and decided to go crazy on Twitter. Marc Jacobs follows up with, "All is well here. Twitter is a crazy place. Protect your passwords." And of course, I don't know if that, if we've all been following the news, which is more certainly going on in the world. But if any of you have had the liberty of following Andrew Carvin or Andy Carvin at NPR, who's been curating the news and everything that's really been coming out of Egypt and Libya, and it's incredibly fascinating what he's been able to do. Just last week, Friday, loss of cabin pressure. Hands down the scariest experience of my life. She posts pictures of herself as the flight is going down. She posts a picture of a hole in the fuselage.
Wow.
Incredible.
I happened to read this story. Of course, I saw it on Twitter within a short time that it happened. I read an account of the story in the LA Times 2 days later, in which they quoted her tweet. The follow-up is she ends up on network television, Good Morning America. So from Twitter to network television, and it's fascinating to note that of all of the discussions that have been happening on this topic, that the final note that she says here, and if you look at her actual Twitter stream, she has a lot of compliments about Southwest Airlines, right? And the crew. Virtually none of her compliments of the brand are mentioned in any news or media coverage or anything online. So it's certainly, the bad news travels very, very quickly. Good news tends to not go very far. So my point in all of this is there's many unintended consequences of all of this innovation. And we can discuss a little bit after John's presentation, where are we going? What's next? But it's obviously organizations of all shapes and sizes cannot really sit on the sidelines while all of these things happen. I think that's ultimately the message of today, is that everyone must engage. The conversation is happening. And organizations need to fundamentally restructure how they're going to respond to these things, train people properly, make sure they have the right tools in place, make sure they have the right processes in place. But at the end of the day, it all does go back to communication. Human, real communication, and the technology is an enabler of amazing things, but is also an enabler of some unintended consequences that is extremely important for all of us both to take advantage of so that we don't miss out on opportunities. As Sally has said, there are many, many opportunities happening all the time, and we don't want to miss out on them, and at the same time we want to be prepared for how we're going to handle them in the event of unexpected incidents, which are inevitably going to occur.